Zillow just released its newest set of projections for 2026, and buried inside that data is something the cheerful headlines are not repeating back to you. While everyone keeps insisting that Florida is still the place everyone wants to be, the actual numbers tell a very different story about where this market goes first. Because in 10 specific Florida towns, Zillow is pointing to the exact places most likely to lead the way down before anywhere else in the state. This is not some far-off prediction that may or may not happen. This is the forecast as it stands right now, drawn from the same data the agents and the banks are looking at, and it lines up with what Redfin is already showing on the ground. And here is the part that matters most. The reason these 10 towns sit at the front of the line is not the reason you have been handed. It is not that people suddenly stopped wanting Florida. It is not a wave of job losses. In most of these towns, it is not even the price of the house itself. There is one question every Florida homeowner is quietly asking right now, which is whether their own town is on this list. Some of these towns are names you would expect, but several are the places people were fighting to move into only a year or two ago, which is exactly what makes this so unsettling. So stay with me, because by the time we reach the very top, you are going to understand the real reason these places are first, and you need to watch this all the way through. Let us start at number 10, in Punta Gorda, on the southwest coast. On the surface, Punta Gorda looks like a quiet, comfortable harbor town, and for a long time it was. But Zillow's 2026 outlook puts it among the markets expected to give back the most, and the reason has very little to do with whether people like living there. This is a town that sits directly in the path of storm after storm, and every time the wind comes through, the insurance market answers with another round of higher premiums and dropped policies. So you have homeowners who can still afford the loan they signed for, but who can no longer afford the cost of protecting the house around it. Redfin shows listings in Punta Gorda sitting longer and sellers cutting their asking price just to find a buyer, which means anyone who needs to get out is already taking less than they hoped. That is the real reason Punta Gorda is near the front. And once Zillow puts a town on the softening side of the forecast, sellers and agents start pricing to that expectation, which only speeds the slide along. The demand never disappeared. The cost of keeping the house standing simply outran what people are willing to pay for it. Number 9 is Lakeland, sitting right in the middle of the Tampa to Orlando corridor. And this one is about overbuilding more than anything else. During the rush, Lakeland became the release valve for everyone priced out of the bigger cities on either side. And builders responded by putting up homes as fast as they could pour the foundations. Zillow's data now flags Lakeland as one of the softer spots heading into the new year, and the mechanism is simple. There are more homes than there are buyers ready to pay the prices people paid 2 and 3 years ago. Redfin shows price reductions stacking up across the area as sellers compete not just with each other, but with brand new construction down the road. So the family who bought near the peak watches the value on paper slip month after month, while the cost of insurance and taxes keeps climbing in the other direction. For the homeowner caught in the middle, it feels deeply unfair, because they did nothing wrong. They paid the going rate at the time, and then the builders kept right on building until the going rate moved out from under them. The real reason Lakeland leads is that the supply got ahead of the demand, and once that happens, prices have only one way to move. Number 8 takes us north to Ocala, in the heart of horse country, and here the villain is speculation. Ocala had one of the most dramatic run-ups of any inland Florida town as buyers and investors poured in chasing what looked like an endless climb. Zillow's 2026 numbers now show that climb running out of road. The trouble is that a lot of what got built and bought here was bought on the expectation that prices would keep rising forever. And when that expectation breaks, the people holding those homes have very little reason to hang on. Redfin data shows a market where homes are taking far longer to sell than they did at the peak, and where sellers are quietly accepting offers below what they once would have laughed at. So the investor who counted on flipping for a profit is now staring at a property that costs more to hold than it will ever return. And what makes it worse is how quickly the mood flips. The same speculation that drove prices up overnight is just as capable of pulling them back down the moment the buyers sense the climb is over. The real reason Ocala is on this list is that it ran on momentum, and momentum is the first thing to vanish when the numbers turn. Number 7 is Winter Haven, just east of Lakeland in Polk County, and this town tells the same story with an even sharper edge. Winter Haven became a magnet for investors and for brand new master-planned communities, all of them betting on a flood of new arrivals that would never stop. Zillow now lists this corner of Polk County among the places most likely to give back ground in 2026. The mechanism is saturation. Too many similar homes built at the same time aimed at the same buyer, all hitting the market at once. Redfin shows builders here offering incentives and rate buy-downs that the everyday seller simply cannot match, which drags the value of every existing home down with it. So the person who bought a Winter Haven home 3 years ago is now competing against a shiny new house next door that comes with thousands of dollars in sweeteners. Every empty new home and every desperate reduction tells the next buyer to wait a little longer, which only deepens the standoff. The real reason Winter Haven is near the front is that it was built for a wave of buyers who slowed to a trickle, and the homes are still standing there waiting. Number 6 brings us to Sebring in Highlands County, and this is where the story turns toward the people who can least afford it. Sebring has always drawn retirees and fixed-income families who came precisely because it was supposed to be the affordable, peaceful choice. But Zillow's outlook puts Sebring among the towns expected to slip, and the reason is the quiet math that nobody warns you about. Property taxes rose as values rose, and insurance climbed right alongside them. And for a household living on a fixed monthly check, there is no raise coming to cover the difference. Redfin shows a slow but steady softening here, with homes lingering and prices easing back. So you have owners who paid their homes down for decades who did everything right, now watching the cost of simply staying put march upward every single year. These are not careless people who overreached. These are people who followed every rule they were ever taught about owning a home, and the reward was a bill that keeps growing while their income stays frozen. The real reason Sebring is on this list is that the cost of ownership finally outgrew the incomes of the very people the town was built to serve. Number 5 is Port St. Lucie on the Treasure Coast, and this one is about the overshoot. Port St. Lucie saw one of the steepest climbs in the entire state during the boom, as buyers rushed in from the more expensive coast to the south. Zillow's 2026 data now flags it as a market giving back a meaningful share of that climb. The trouble is that many of the people who bought here did so at the very top, stretching to the absolute edge of what they could handle, telling themselves they would refinance later when rates eased. That relief never arrived, and the monthly payment that was already a stretch on the day they signed has only grown heavier as every other cost around it climbed. They are not behind because they were reckless. They are behind because the timing of their purchase left them no margin at all. Redfin shows asking prices in Port St. Lucie drifting lower as sellers test a market that no longer rewards them, which means the equity these buyers counted on as a cushion has thinned to almost nothing. So a single bad month, a job change, a medical bill, an insurance jump is enough to put them behind. And because they bought so recently, they have almost no equity built up to act as a cushion. So even a small slide in value can leave them owing more than the home is now worth. The real reason Port St. Lucie is near the front is that it climbed too far too fast, and the people who bought the top have the least room to fall. Number 4, Pensacola, way up in the western panhandle, and here the ground itself is the problem. Pensacola carries serious coastal and flood exposure, and as the maps get redrawn and the coverage gets repriced, the cost of insuring a home here has climbed into territory that the working families who live here never planned for. Zillow's outlook puts Pensacola among the softening markets for 2026, and Redfin confirms a market where homes are sitting and prices are easing. The mechanism is the same carrying cost trap that runs through this entire list, but on the coast, it bites even harder. You can afford the house. You cannot afford the water risk wrapped around it. So owners start choosing between the insurance and the mortgage, and eventually, some of them lose the ability to carry either one. What the forecast captures, that a casual glance at a listing never will, is that the price on the door was always the smaller number. The larger number is everything the location forces you to pay year after year just to keep the home protected. The real reason Pensacola is on this list is that the cost of the risk finally caught up with the value of the home. And on the coast, that gap is widest of all. If you have followed the thread this far, you are already paying closer attention than most people who skim the headlines and scroll past. Whether you already own a home somewhere in Florida, or you are quietly planning the move, the next several towns are the part you really need to hear. Because this is where the pattern stops being about supply and demand and starts being about something almost nobody is warning you about. Number 3 is Bradenton on the Gulf Coast between Tampa and Sarasota, and this is where two pressures meet at once. Bradenton saw a flood of new construction and a flood of new condominium buildings during the boom, and Zillow's 2026 data now puts it among the markets most likely to lead the slide. On the single-family side, the builders are discounting and the resale homeowner cannot keep up. On the condo side, something even heavier is starting to land, and we will get to the full weight of that at the very top of this list. Redfin shows a Bradenton market where inventory is climbing and prices are softening across the board. And Zillow's forecast expects that softening to deepen as the new year wears on rather than reverse. So the homeowner here is squeezed from both directions at once, by the new homes undercutting them and by the rising cost of everything wrapped around ownership. And this is the town where the two threads of this whole story finally braid together. The everyday family fighting the new construction next door, and the condo owner about to open an envelope they will never forget. Both live here, and both are showing up in the same softening forecast. The real reason Bradenton is near the front is that it overbuilt on both fronts at the same time, and now both are coming due together. Here is something worth having if you own property anywhere in Florida or you are weighing a move here. Every town worth buying into and every town worth steering clear of in this state is now gathered in one place. 40 Florida towns, 20 rated to buy and 20 rated to avoid, all in a single guide called the Florida Buy and Avoid List for 2026. Instead of stitching the picture together yourself from a dozen scattered sources, it is all consolidated for you and you can reach it through the link in the description below. But stay right here, because the real reason behind the very top of this list, the mechanism almost nobody in the headlines is talking about, is the one waiting at number 1, and it is coming up very soon. Number 2 is Fort Myers, back on the southwest coast, and this town shows what happens when the high-end and the everyday market strain at the same time. Fort Myers climbed hard during the boom, drawing in second home buyers, investors, and retirees all at once. Zillow's 2026 outlook now places it among the markets expected to give back the most ground, and the reason runs deeper than a simple cooling. The storms that have battered this stretch of coast turned the insurance market into something brutal, and the homes that looked like a dream purchase a few years ago now carry a monthly cost of ownership that keeps climbing with no ceiling in sight. Redfin shows a glut of listings in Fort Myers, with sellers cutting prices and homes sitting far longer than they used to. So whether you are a retiree on a fixed income or an investor who counted on appreciation, the math has quietly turned against you. The real reason Fort Myers is so close to the top is that every kind of buyer who propped this market up is now feeling the same squeeze at the same moment. And that brings us to number 1, the town, and the reason that almost nobody is talking about out loud. And it is the one Zillow's 2026 condo data flags more clearly than anything else. We are heading to the coast, to St. Petersburg, and to a kind of owner the headlines almost never picture when they talk about a market about to turn. The owner of a condominium in a building right near the water. For years, owning a condo here meant predictable monthly dues and a comfortable life by the bay. Then everything changed. After the tragedy that shook the entire state, Florida put new rules in place requiring older buildings to undergo serious structural inspections and, for the first time, to actually fund the reserves needed for major repairs. On paper, that is exactly the right thing to do. In practice, it landed on individual owners like a hammer. Buildings that had skated by for decades suddenly faced enormous repair bills, and the only way to pay them was through what is called a special assessment. We are not talking about a few $100s. We are talking about owners being handed bills of $40,000, $50,000, even $60,000 or more, on top of monthly dues that had already doubled. And this is exactly why Zillow's condo numbers for St. Petersburg and the rest of the coast are falling faster than almost anything else in the state. Buyers see those assessments coming and they run, which pulls the value of every older unit down with it. Picture a retiree who owns their condo with a small mortgage, living comfortably on a fixed income, who opens an envelope and learns they owe $50,000 they do not have, due soon, with no way to refinance it. For many of these owners, the mortgage is the smallest problem on the table. They cannot pay the assessment, they cannot sell into a market full of frightened buyers, and the value of the unit keeps dropping beneath them. This is the real reason, and it is the one hiding in plain sight. No amount of careful budgeting can absorb a surprise the size of a second mortgage. And the people most likely to receive one are the retirees who can least afford it. It is not contained to one building or one town. The same pressure is spreading through older towers all along the coast, and Zillow's data is simply the first place you can see it in black and white. In a town like St. Petersburg, the market is not turning because people stopped loving the water. It is turning because the buildings themselves started sending bills the size of a second mortgage, and the data caught what the headlines keep skipping. So now you have seen all 10, and I want to hear from you directly. Tell me in the comments which Florida town you live in and whether you own there or you are planning to make the move. If you have been hit with an insurance renewal or a condo assessment this year, tell me what the number did to you, because the real picture of this market lives in those stories far more than it lives in any forecast. And tell me which town or which cost you want me to dig into next, because I read these and they shape what comes next. If you are the kind of person who believes the real story of this market is the one the headlines keep refusing to tell, hit the subscribe button right now, because next, we are pulling back the curtain on the exact Florida towns where these condo assessments are about to land hardest, and you are going to want to know whether yours is on that list before the letter ever reaches your mailbox.